preachers preaching about how difficult it was to develop an authentic relationship in church. Sometimes they would talk about how easy it is to come into church and say, when someone says, "Hey, how you doing?" we just give our default answer. Our default answer is, "Good. I'm good. Good." You could have just had the biggest fight with your spouse on the way here, and that's why Rachel and I drive in separate cars. That's just the worst. It's the worst time to. For some reason, Satan's in that car. He's working on it. Just kidding. But our default answer is just this: good. I'm good. And you come in and people say, "How are you doing?" "I'm good." But you know, it's trending now a bit differently, where that's not our first answer anymore. We say, "How you doing?" About 5 or 6 years ago, 10 years ago, we started saying, instead of good, we started saying, "I'm busy." More than just about any other answer. Sometimes we'll say, "I'm good," but I'm busy, man. Just keeping busy. As if it's a badge. "I'm busy." Actually, you ask somebody now how they're doing, this is their answer. Those candy trash, that's embarrassing. That's it. Just space sucked into the phone. We got a life around us, and the trees are on fire with the leaves, and here we are. You're like, "Oh, the trees are beautiful." Yes, they are. Click. But we are so busy, and we like being busy. We have invented things to keep us just going and going. I've got this and that and this, and my kids in 8 different soccer leagues, and we're running around. I'm coaching 7 of them, and we go to Little Rock, and we go this place, and we go all where we're playing baseball and football, and I've got this job and this second job and this third job, and we are just we line our schedules up so that there's no time for anything. It even gets to the point where church is sometimes a bit of a stress. We going to church this morning? Yeah, we haven't been in a while. We got to go. Gotta. And so we've got to do all of these things. We're just inventing it for ourselves. Moses led a group, hundreds of thousands of people, slaves, out of Egypt. By the grace of God, they walked out of Egypt. And slaves, who had been slaves for 450, 460 years, they'd been slaves. And their grandparents were slaves. They didn't know any other life. God walked them out of Egypt, of their slavery, and they got to a mountain, and God says, "I have some commands for you." He says, "I am the Lord your God who brought you up out of Egypt. Don't have any other God besides me. Don't try to peg me to some physical image. I'm bigger than that golden calf. I'm bigger than that idol. And if I'm going to give you my name, do not take it lightly. Do not take it in vain." And it takes him to the fourth command to say, well, let's read it. "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You shall labor and do all your work. Or 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. Neither you, nor your son, or daughter, nor your manservant, your maidservant, nor your animals, nor the aliens within your gates." If you're a slave, and your parents have been slaves, and your grandparents have been slaves, and their parents have been slaves, people you didn't even know in your family history had been slaves, and you follow God, and He sets you free, and you hear, on the 7th day, you need to rest. that means something different from a command to just, well, you got to keep a certain day holy and you can't do work on the seventh day. Well, we got to do that the right way. For them, it's just, wait, hold on a second. When we get a day off, our people, our culture, our nation has been working for 450 straight years. And you rescue us, and 4 commandments in, you say, here's a holy thing you need to do. You need to rest. You need to take a break and breathe. And your wife doesn't need to work. None of your animals need to work. None of your servants. None of your... nothing. No, not even a foreigner who is now living with you. Nobody works. Everybody rests. You could use a day, couldn't you? Now, to say, well, on the seventh day, let's get it back on the seventh day, and we need to not rest. The point is not the location, or the point is not the calendar. The point is the rest. We are a culture that has learned to not rest, to not take a break, to not breathe for a second. The Hebrew writer, when describing what we experience when we die, where we go when we die, he says, there will become a day where we will experience that great rest. So the way I'm going to pick up this candy trash because it's been bothering me this whole time out of the corner of my eye. That's a Jolly Rancher. I didn't even have a Jolly Rancher. The last time I wore these pants. Sometimes you just need to sit down and enjoy a cinnamon Jolly Rancher. That's all I'm saying. We've gotten to the point where we think it is part of our productivity or part of our work to be doing something. Part of my deer season is holy, and I say this knowing full well that I don't hunt, never have. It's just never something my dad did, and so it's not something I do. And you know, every once in a while I'll wake up at 5 and have the urge to kill something, but I go back to sleep. I think every time I wake up at 5, I feel that way. But I don't hunt. But there's something holy about just waking up, sitting in a tree, and doing nothing. Like as a kid, that's what concerned me about it. I didn't like. I was like, what do you do? Wait. For what? Sometimes nothing. Every once in a while, you'll see a majestic animal walk by. That's when you shoot it. If you're lucky, you get to sever it and hang part of it on your wall. But there is something holy about just sitting, being quiet, being silent. We have a hard time. I turned on the radio the other day and there was just commercials. And I opted to listen to commercials. I was driving from here to my house. There wasn't a good shot that anything actual was going to come on. If commercials come on when I'm leaving, it's going to be nothing but commercials. Silence bothers us. Being still bothers us. Rest. It's not in our nature. It needs to be. We need to have moments where we can sit quietly. Just sit. Now, it may be doing something that you love, hunting or fishing. I left my phone at the house yesterday on accident. Loved it. That was so nice not to be connected to the entire universe. We need to be free from our busyness. And God brings the people out of Egypt, and He says, you are going to follow me. I am going to give you your name. You're not going to tie me to some, I'm going to give you my name. You're not going to tie me to some idol and bring me into an earthly dwelling. I'm bigger than that. And whenever I give you my name, do not take it in vain. By the way, guys, y'all need to rest once a week. Rest once a week. Because that's a holy thing. And not only do you rest, but everybody that you are associated with, that's in your household, and let's just be frank with it, that you own, both your manservants, maidservants, your aliens dwelling among you, and your cattle, all of them need to take a break. We're not going to work today. Why? Notice what he says next. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but He rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. If the God who created the heavens needs to rest, what makes you think you don't? We sin, mess up, violate God's will for our lives the most when we are in what they call halt environments. You're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. You ever see it, the newborn, when they're hungry? They just cry. That's it. When they're tired, they cry. When they feel alone, they cry. And they definitely cry when they're angry. Scott, I should have had you do this part of the sermon. I'm sorry. It's the other way. You don't know anything. But they just, we do the same thing, but we just don't cry. When we're hungry, angry, we're lonely, or we're tired, we are prone to sin. The one that gets us the most, actually, hunger probably gets us a lot. But when we're tired, we may say, I'm grumpy. Chances are you just need to rest. And if God rested, if God saw fit to rest, shouldn't you? Here's what's great about this. We worship a God who, when He does something that's beneficial, He says, you get to do that too. All the benefits that God gets from His being God, we get as well. So when He says, I rested, now because I rested, you guys rest. Or something like this. I resurrected, I beat death, and now because I beat death, you guys get to beat death. I was sinless, and because I lived a life that was full, that didn't have any sin, because I did that, now you guys get to look as though you are holy as well. We have a God who shares His benefits with us. We have a God who shares all the things that He gets from just being God, just from being the King. Now, a lot of kings aren't like that. A lot of kings just, they get their benefits, but the people below them, who, that's everybody, they don't quite get what the king gets. But our King, our Savior, our Messiah, shares with us. And He's been sharing with His people ever. This is a blessing. This is not a command in Exodus 20. It's not Him saying, listen guys, you got to do this or you're in trouble. He's talking to a group of slaves who hadn't rested in generations, and he's saying, you guys get rest. Because it's needed. You need a Sabbath. Listen, I know it might not be a full day for you, or you don't walk a certain distance, but sit down and just be silent for a little bit. See how that changes your relationship with God. Just try that out. If you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. It is so beneficial to just be silent before God, to rest before God. Because what you're doing is you're sharing in something that He's done. He did first. You're sharing in His rest. He created the heavens and the earth, and then He rested. We have a God. We serve a God who looks slaves in the eyes and says, you get a day off. We serve a God who looks sinners in the eyes and says, you get to be holy like me. He looks at creation, looks at a creation who is just wrestling with death and being defeated one after the other, and says, I will defeat death for you. He's a God who shares His goodness. He's a king who shares His prosperity. And He thinks, if I get to rest, surely you get to rest. I think we should take Him up on that offer. Your life may look hectic, where you are being ruled by the tyranny of the urgent. You have no direction, no connection with God. Because your job, or your hobbies, or your commitments, just keep you connected to the Creator. If you find a time to rest, and do it intentionally, you will find a time to connect with your God. A lot of us are just too busy to pray. Too busy to read the good news. Just too busy. I understand. I get that. There's a lot going on. Some of you are teachers, and it seems like you're working from dawn till dusk. Get home and you got to fill out all sorts of paperwork for all the kids and their test scores and whatnot. Tutor on the side, and it just seems like you'll never get a break. God says rest. 6 days you will work. You're not lazy. 6 days you will work. The proverb says a man who doesn't work doesn't eat. 6 days you will work. But on that seventh day, now for us it doesn't have to be the seventh day, but on that seventh day, for them, you guys sit down. You take a break. Now for me, my Sabbath may look completely different from yours. I may sit down and play a piano for 10 minutes. I don't know how. I'm just banging on them with my fist. I do. But music is my rest. For you it might be a sport. For you it might be something outdoors. For you it might be sitting on a beanbag reading a book. Or futon or whatever. I don't know. Sitting down, reading a book. Do that thing. Take a break. Because you have worked, you have been busy, and we have a King who wants to share his benefits with us. Resurrection. Salvation. Rest. That's something God gets. He has offered it to you. I would suggest that you take him up on his offer. Because it might be that rest that helps your temperament, changes your attitude, helps you deal with the people you love the most properly and lovingly. And maybe you may feel like you're in a funk and you just can't get out. It may just be that you're tired. Then again, you may just need to eat something. God says, guys, you have become slaves to your productivity. You have become slaves to your busyness. You've become slaves to your technology. You've become slaves. God once again looks in the eyes of the slaves, of the bound, those who are not free. And I'm going to set you free. You need to rest. It is not healthy to go all the time. Be busy all the time. A lot of times I hear in here, in this place, when I say, "How are you doing?" I hear blessed. Not busy. Blessed. We have been blessed with salvation. We've been blessed with a King who is willing to share his resurrection with us. And we've been blessed with a God who rests and asks us to rest as well, willing to share what is his with his creation. Whether you need rest or salvation or resurrection, the God I serve, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God who rescued his people from Egypt, the God who sent his Son, his one and only Son, whom he loved to die as a sacrifice for our sin. It's the God who raised his Son from the dead and now has seated him at his right hand on the throne, has made him King. That God, you need that God. Whether you need resurrection, or redemption, or sanctification, or rest, you need that God. He's the only God who offers. Because before I knew the grace of Jesus Christ, even when I was silent, even when I was still, I was scared to death that my own faith would somehow mess up my eternal destination. It is only by the grace of Jesus Christ, only through his death, burial, and resurrection that I can sit quiet, I can sit still, barely, but I can. And I can be at peace, knowing full well that my salvation, my redemption, is not based on how good I've got it, or how altogether I have things neatly packaged in my life. My salvation is based on a King who reigns and rules, is in charge, and has beat death from me, and has beat my sins from me, and I can sit at peace. I can rest in peace, knowing full well I have not earned this on my own, but yet I still get to share in the rest and the redemption and the resurrection that Jesus offers. If you want to be a part of that movement, part of that kingdom, following that Savior, we would love to talk to you about that, love to introduce you into that life, what that looks like. What you do after you say, yes, absolutely, I want Jesus. We'll say, okay, come with us, and we'll show you where to go from there. If you've been living a life following Jesus, but you haven't been taking him up on that rest, and you just don't know where to start, we'd love to talk to you about that too. Maybe you can repent of your busyness this morning. But go in the name of God and find your peace. Find your moment of Sabbath, your moment of rest, wherever it may be. It may be on Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning. But sit quietly in the presence of God, knowing that in that moment, he just expects you to sit there. That's a nice feeling. Knowing he doesn't need me to get up and travel to Africa and cure all sorts of things over there. There's people who are doing that. I'm not one of them. God doesn't need me to do some great thing to accomplish his will. Sometimes he just needs me to sit in the presence of his throne. Feel like your life's about to wash you over, about to run you over, about to catch up with you, and you just can't slow down. Maybe the presence of God, the peace and the presence of God is exactly what you need. Whatever it is that you need. You can come talk to one of us, you can go grab a friend. Do whatever you need to do. Please do it while we stand.